In this video, I'm just going to show you how I use the Aliquot jars. So depending on what I'm baking, I like to aim for a different degree of rise in the dough. Today I'm going to be working on a sweet potato, black sesame seed sourdough, so I generally like to aim for 50 to 60% rise. And I've written about how I use the Aliquot jars, but I thought I would actually show you. So this is the equipment I use. I use a syringe because I find I can more accurately measure the water with a syringe. I use two equal-sided, straight-sided jars that are fairly narrow, a scale that you'll start by tarring with one of your bottles. In the bottle, not on the scale, I start with about 10 cc's of water. I also get some water into the syringe that we'll be using later. So that's tarred and zeroed now. So you need to remove some of the dough. So this dough has just gone through a lamination, has some of the sweet potato and everything else done. So in terms of bulk fermentation, it's gone through letter folds and then one set of letter folds to each of the half doughs, and then the doughs were laminated together and black sesame seeds were then added. So I'm going to remove a good sized portion of this dough to add to this jar. So I usually aim for about a 30-gram portion, if not more. So that may not be big enough, we'll see. Let's see how big that is. Actually, that's not too bad. So with wet hands, should wet my hands first, but with wet hands, I like to fold the dough up a bit. In fact, I'm not sure that's going to be a large enough piece. I think I need to remove a little bit more dough than that. So let's remove a little bit more here. Okay, then again with wet hands, just going to do some folding of it. And then we're going to get it into the jar. So fold and stretch, or stretch and fold. Do that a few times. Try and make this into a nice cohesive ball. Okay. Then you're going to insert this into your first Aliquot jar with the 10 cc's of water. Why do I put the water in it? I put the water in it so when you get the dough in, you don't leave any bubbles of air underneath. So I press this firmly to the bottom of the jar, as you can see here, and the water pushes out from underneath. I keep on going at this till most of the water is gone from underneath. If there's still a little bit of water at the bottom, it doesn't really matter that much. Not sure you can see that, but the water is mostly gone. The next thing I do is I'm going to empty out some of this water into the sink. Let's see what we're left with. So how does that look? That looks quite good actually. So the water that's left is at the level of the top of the dough. So the dough has a bit of a dome. So that's perfect actually. Okay, so that's how we get the dough into the jar. Now the next step, so you have tarred, zeroed out the scale with the same jar on it. Now what we're going to do is fill the empty jar with water to the same level as the dough in the other jar. I'm also going to place a piece of painter's tape. This is where we're going to be marking the starting point and the various rises that we're going to aim for. So first I'm just marking starting point so I can see where the dough started. Next I'm going to pour water into the empty jar till it reaches that level. So getting down to eye level, I'm just pouring water in. There, that's quite equal. I'm not sure you'd be able to see, but they're now at the equal height. Now I'm going to take the weight of that water. That water is 42.1 grams. So the next thing I'm going to do is add 50% of that weight in water, and then we're going to mark that level on the dough aliquot jar, and that'll tell us, I'm going to mark that level, and that'll be when the dough has reached 50%. I'm going to mark 60% as well. Maybe I'll go to 70, but I don't think so. I usually stop at around 60%. So, hey Siri, what's 42.1 times 1.5? Hey Siri, what's 42.1 times 1.5?
42.1 times 1.5 is 63.15.
So 63.15 grams of water is 50% more. 63. Okay, so we're going to pour water in here to make 63. Okay, so we went a little high. So I can just use this to easily remove a little bit of water. 63 point. Okay, we'll just bring it up to 1.5. Okay, 63.15. Okay, so I'm going to mark that level on the jar. So when the dough reaches this height, that's 50%. Okay, putting that back on. Hey Siri, what's 42.1 times 1.6?
42.1 times 1.6 is 67.36.
67.36. So we're going to bring this up to 67.36. Oops, went too high. So again, taking my syringe, I'm going to remove some to bring it up to 60, bring it down to 67.36. Okay, so now put these jars beside each other and mark 60%. Getting down at eye level. Finally, I'm going to do one more and go to 70%. Hey Siri, what's 42.1 times 1.7?
42.1 times 1.7 is 71.57.
71.57. So 71 point. There we go. Then I'll mark that, and that'll be the 70% rise level, which will be here. Now, if you don't want to do it by weight, you can always do it by measure. You could measure that height and add 50%, 60%, and 70%. But yeah, that's the way I do that. And then you keep your aliquot jar. Some people will place it in the container with, but since I use a proofing box that keeps the temperature quite accurate, I'm just going to keep them together in the proofing box. And every time I take the dough out to do a coil fold, I'll take this out as well, so it also experiences the drop in temperature. Anyways, that's what I do. That's going to tell me when my dough has bulk fermented sufficiently.